It's the Halloween season, and as we all know, the kiddos are going to be out and about on Halloween dressed in their costumes, knocking on doors and asking for treats. For some, it's a nuisance. For others, it's the favorite holiday. I spend a great deal of my time now riding horses and writing histories. And it kind of makes sense to me to combine both horse and Halloween and their histories. And of course, that history is going to be of the headless rider variety. So, the headless horseman, as a supernatural entity, represents a part of us that never dies, but always haunts the living. Stories of headless horsemen have actually been around since the Middle Ages. Some of the history you already know, and some of this you may not know. But it seems that it's as if most of the tales of the headless horseman originate during the 6th season from the Netherlands. The pagan religion then was being driven out of the region by the Christian missionaries, and the transition to Christianity was underway. The Christian ministries forbade the worship of the Celtic god of fertility, who demanded human sacrifices every year, preferably by decapitation. Since the worship of this god was forbidden, locals adapted stories changing their god, into supernatural beings which craved the dead corpses.
Prepare yourselves. The bells have tolled. Shelter your weak, your young, and your old. Each of you shall pay the final sum. Cry for mercy. The reckoning has come.
It is said that after sunset on certain festivals and feast days, one of the most terrifying creatures in the spirit world is that of the Dullahan. The Dullahan legend originated from Ireland. The ancient Irish believed that when and where the Dullahan stops riding, a mortal dies. The Dullahan is a sinister being riding upon a magnificent black horse. The rider, man or woman, has no head and is carrying it under its arms. The whip used is that of a human spine. The Dullahan would lift its severed head, which possesses supernatural sight, high into the air and look into the houses of the dying. The Dullahan calls out the person's name, drawing away the soul of its victim. That person would immediately drop dead. There is a headless horseman associated with King Arthur. That horseman was a giant green knight who came to Camelot to test the king's knights' loyalty and honor. The Green Knight dared the Knights of the Round Table to chop off his head, but there was a condition. The knight who swung an axe and chopped off his head would agree to meet him again 1 year and 1 day later and willingly bend his own head in front of the Green Knight and receive an axe blow in return. According to the legend, Arthur was the first to volunteer, but his nephew, Sir Gawain, swung first and chopped off the Green Giant's head. Instead of dying, the giant picked up his bleeding head, reminded Sir Gawain of the pledge, fixed his severed head on the pommel of his saddle, and rode off on his green horse. Of course, you know the story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, the story of Ichabod Crane and the menacing headless horseman. Probably it's the most famous of all headless horseman stories. In Irving's book, which was published in 1820, the fictional character of Ichabod Crane is usually portrayed as a tall, lanky individual with a scarecrow effect. He is the local schoolmaster and has strong beliefs in all things supernatural, including the legend of the galloping Hessian, otherwise known as the headless horseman. Crane and another local man get involved with a local heiress. Trouble ensues, of course, and according to the story, after Crane proposes to the woman, he's headed home alone at night when he sees the headless horseman. Crane is never seen again. Did you know that the author drew upon real-life events that took place around Tarrytown, New York? Irving's story takes place in the late 1700s in a city called Sleepy Hollow, which is near Tarrytown, New York. That Hudson River Valley community has a large Dutch population, and much of the area's folklore finds its way into the stories of Washington Irving. In fact, there is a German legend of a headless horseman called the Wild Huntsman. He chases people who committed terrible crimes through the woods at breakneck speeds. The area residents didn't care much for the German mercenaries who lived there. The German residents told tales of ruthless German hessmen who killed without discretion. And according to one folk tale, a headless corpse of a Hessian soldier was found in an area and later buried by a local family in an unmarked grave in the old burying ground. There was, though, an actual Ichabod Crane. He was a career military officer who served in the War of 1812. Washington Irving met the real Colonel Ichabod Bennet Crane in 1814 and was immediately inspired by his name and his character. But unlike Irving's character, the real Crane died while on active duty after a long career of service. He was beloved and respected by everyone who knew him. Supposedly, the colonel resented the use of his name in the popular Halloween story and disliked Irving for doing so. So be careful this Halloween night and watch out for those supernatural entities.
The reckoning has come!